investing in our people right away all the time. These arbitrary timelines need to go away so that ongoing learning, ongoing development becomes really the paramount in our organizations and in our culture, because we want people to stay. We want people to be retained. We want to keep that top talent, and the way to do that is by developing them continuously in both formal and informal ways. We have to deliver tailored, personal, and relevant experiences in the age that we find ourselves in now, which is that we've got content overload. You can go out and find content everywhere. So how do we manage all this content and make it relevant for our employees and for our organization?
As much as the world and Blade Runner is telling us to look at the future 2040, I find it's very sad, but we are becoming very short-term, quarter focused. So forget about 2025. I dare say many of our companies are very short-term focused, and I will not be surprised if you are also not under short-term pressure. So there is even a McKinsey study to say how we're becoming so short-term focused that any long-term measures, including future readiness, succession planning, talent management, is actually in many cases takes the backseat. The second is the fact that leadership development efforts, which is really what aids future readiness, are at best described by business leaders as inadequate. You know, in many companies when we polled, or including universally public polls over how the business looks at future readiness or whether HR is delivering future ready leaders, at best it is labeled as ineffective. So I think some of the approaches, why is it? I think that leads to the third challenge, because we are not thinking enough of digital readiness in the digital world. I don't think we have programs for humanoids, so like the ones that you mentioned. So I think the whole notion of readiness does not still, even the competency models around future readiness don't have too much of digital readiness. So I think those are some challenges, and I think if you look at those challenges and look at overcoming them, then certainly we can take the next steps.
We have an opportunity to create something really different, to shift focus from a process-oriented mindset to truly an experience-oriented mindset, to truly empower our people, to embrace the person in the professional, as well as reward, recognize our people in a timely fashion, and truly do that in a transparent manner. And we need to do that through what I call as moments that matter, or moments of truth. The big thing today that I feel is we have individual siloed focuses across the organizational spectrum. Whether it is recruiting, whether it is onboarding, whether it is performance management, whether it is talent development, whether it is internal mobility, succession planning, all of these are siloed functions, and there is a lot of exciting work that is happening in here, right? And we heard some examples of AI or machine learning being used or piloted to an extent in each of these areas. But what is really missing is the using the power of interconnection across the spectrum to truly collect what I believe are digital breadcrumbs. And those digital breadcrumbs is what employees want you to collect and derive an insight from it to truly create a meaningful experience right from hire to retire.
One is complementarity of skills, one is a dramatic reinventions of skills which have nothing to do with what you've done so far. But it also has issues about, are you going to be going down the value chain or are you going to be upskilling? Some jobs are going to get routinized in each of our industries and companies. What are those jobs? You don't need such differentiated skills anymore. That is not going to be a source of competitive advantage. It may not even be necessary for sustaining your future business. You can do it with something which is far lower. Again, because I'm in pharma, I'm trying to be partial to my current experience. Why would you need an M-Pharm for everything?
Around the fact that HR technology does impact the productivity of the organization positively. It is difficult to measure because obviously you have to look at man hours and do a lot of maths around it.
Yeah.
But it does add to the productivity because you have cut away a layer of a person in the middle who will provide you with data or details or updation of records. You have a direct uploading or downloading of data. So simply by that, I think you've lowered the HR costs, you've improved efficiency in the system, and I think you've also made the line manager more productive because they're spending less time seeking out information.
Yes,
Because it's
that's
available at their fingertips.
Those who deal with data will definitely have an early mover advantage, and that's going to be the competitive edge before you lose out to your other performers and competition. The decision-making currency is going to be data.
Technology is enabling us connect with colleagues who may not necessarily be sitting next to us in an absolutely seamless way. You never realize that the person you're talking to is not sitting in front of you, having coffee with you and chatting, but actually virtually present with you. So I think that's really enabling connections. It's really strongly enabling co-creation. And then with that comes learning and sharing and collaboration.
So when you talk about the organizational culture which you mentioned about, so I would vote for people, because end of the day, what's culture? Culture is nothing but those underlying assumptions, beliefs, and values which gets manifested in the behavior of the people in the organization, and that's what defines the culture of the place. So if you can identify those, if you understand those values, and then look for those values and use technology to identify the right set of talent which will fit into our kind of an ecosystem, that's where I think we should be leveraging it more and more.
I think from an HR standpoint, honestly, today if I look at it's just what analytics can do for us and the insights. If you ask me 2-3 years down the line, I don't know, and that's the scary part, right? So anyone who says that they know, they don't know, right? Because things could change 3 years down the line. But if I look at today, it's just the insights and the analytics and how do you use that to make decisions.